Additional student information on finances and payment of fees. The payment of fees. Full fees are expected to be paid by students when they make their visa application. Please check with your education provider when the full fee has to be paid. If the education provider requires the full fee to be paid before you apply for your Irish visa, the visa office will need to see evidence that the full fee has been paid. In all other cases where the full fee is expected to be paid by the time you enrol on the course, the visa officer will only assess study applications where a student has paid at least €6,000 towards their fee if it is under €12,000. If less than €6,000 has been paid in these cases, the visa application will be refused. If the fee is more than €12,000, the student must pay at least half of the total fee amount, or the visa fee will be refused. If you are receiving a scholarship for part of the fee, the amount to be paid before the visa application can be considered is 50% of the gross amount, unless the scholarship awarded is more than half of the tuition fee. Even if your course is partially online, you must pay the required fee above in order for your application to be processed. The visa office will continue to offer the Approval in Principle scheme. Full details of this scheme is on our website. Finances. You must provide evidence of deposits, registration and tuition fees already paid and evidence of the sources of funds used to pay them. You must provide evidence that you have access to sufficient funds to cover your tuition fees and sufficient funds to support yourself in Ireland for the duration of your studies. The sources of all funds must be accounted for. Do not depend on sources of income from any part-time employment you may get in Ireland while you are a student there. If you are using fixed deposits or similar products, the source of funds used to purchase and invest must be enclosed. Check and Verify will check the bank account provided on the supplementary form, and the visa office will check all the other financial documents submitted. Up to a maximum of 3 sponsors are permitted to sponsor a student, generally blood relatives. Other sponsors will be considered on a case-by-case basis, but a full explanation from the sponsor would need to be provided for the reasons for sponsoring a person who is not a blood relative. For overseas sponsors, pay slips are mandatory, with copies of the bank statement showing that the salary is being transferred into a bank account. A spouse on a work permit visa in Ireland can be a sponsor, but they will need to be able to show that they can support themselves and the student in Ireland. Where the student's spouse is on a critical skills work permit and the student can apply for a joint family visa, and if successful can pursue a course in Ireland on this visa. They would need to be able to meet the criteria for a joint family visa. Full details is available on our website. However, this would not be the case if the spouse is on a general work permit, and they would have to apply for a study visa. By far the most common reason for a refusal is that the applicant didn't adequately demonstrate sufficient access to the required funds or the source of the funds already used. Student loans. Full original documentation must be submitted. The sanction letter is not sufficient. Copy of deeds of any property used as security must be submitted. Where the sources of funds is the sale of an asset, full evidence must be submitted. Any guarantor on the loan must be treated as a sponsor, and their details must be included on the student supplementary form. If their application details are not included on this form, this could result in your application being refused. The principal amount loaned to the applicant must be consistent with the availability to be repaid based on the existing income levels. Future income levels cannot be considered for the availability to repay the loan. This includes considering any part-time work you may avail of in Ireland while studying. Anyone offering material support to your application is considered a sponsor and must be included on your supplementary form. The main sponsor, who is providing the majority of the finances to you, should be included as sponsor 1 on the supplementary form. This includes details about your parents, whether they are your sponsors or not. You must include proof of their ID, employment status, address, and evidence of your relationship linked to them. You must provide evidence of their income, ITRs, payslips and savings bank statements. Original FDs must be submitted. You cannot say you are self-funded if any financial support comes from elsewhere. They must be accounted for as a sponsor. One of the main conditions for a visa to be granted is that the applicant must have paid at least $6,000 in tuition fees if the fees are less than $12,000, with evidence that there are sufficient finances to cover the remaining fee. If the fees are more than $12,000, you must pay half of the total fee to be paid before you apply for the study visa. Study bonds, such as Pay to Study, are acceptable as long as the source of funds used to pay for them is accounted for. The visa office may request you to provide additional evidence of finances if that is considered necessary. If you are using study bonds for your living expenses, this money cannot be withdrawn when your visa has been issued. It must remain there until you have transferred it into your Irish bank account. You will be requested to show evidence of this when you register with the Immigration Office in Ireland. You are required to have private medical insurance at the level that will cover the cost of hospital accommodation. Students must have access to $3,000 when they register with the Immigration Office in Ireland, either lodged in an Irish bank account, your own personal bank account in India, which you can access from Ireland, or as a study bond. However, when you are submitting financial documentation in support of your application, you must be able to show that you have access to sufficient finances for 12 months or the duration of your course. If your course is registered on the Internationalisation Registrar, you can work in Ireland to supplement your income while you study in Ireland. Full details of that is available on our website. English language tests. The Visa Office will accept Duolingo again this year. Full details of the current English language requirement is on the INISH website.